Let's start with a hiccup in the market in China. That's a real problem for Tesla, isn't it?
Well, it absolutely is. But although we should give them credit for what they did. So they did have a record number of sales this quarter, selling over 10,000 cars for the first time ever. And when you look at that number, it's more than ever before, and that's more than this, startup out of nowhere has been able to achieve, and they should get credit for that. But it is the slowest pace of growth that we've seen from this company on a sequential basis. Selling 9,800 previous quarter, 9,834. That's just 2% sequential growth. So we've seen some really bumpy quarters from these guys, but really anemic growth year over year. And yes, China, big focus for Elon Musk, as you mentioned, Brendan. Elon's visited there, made a number of press appearances. They sold fewer cars, apparently, to China than they even did to Norway, and that's a problem.
Does he have the regulatory authority he needs to sell over there, or is it really a pure question of demand?
I think it's reasonable to ask both questions, right? How big is the market for a luxury vehicle whose use case is much more limited than all the other luxury vehicles out there, all the fancy cars that you can actually pull up at any gas station and get a fill-up? You don't get that advantage with this electric car. Yes, it's an electric car. It's better for the environment. But the number of license plates available in China, for example, has been a tough thing for Tesla to get around. Also, there are limited number of stores in China to sell the car. What we see is that the places where Tesla has done the best are the places with the biggest subsidies. So in the quarter that just happened, they likely had about 1,500 sales to Norway, 1,500 cars sold to Norway, about 1,100 to China. Why so much to Norway? Norway is offering free parking, free use of bus lanes, reduced taxes. But those subsidies are set to expire in April or May once a certain number of electric vehicles are sold in that country. And so those go away. So then what's the driver going to be? If it's not Norway, is it going to be somewhere else with the benefits, the subsidies going down across the world as oil prices declining? It's a challenge for Tesla to find ways to grow. And yet they're hanging on to their long-term growth target of 55,000. They missed last year's targets, but they say, don't worry, this year we're going to hit our growth target in spite of what we did last year and missing in last year's numbers.
Cory, let's stick with oil for a second. We've had a couple of months now since oil went looking for a bid. Is that enough time to figure out what oil price has on the demand for Tesla?
I don't know. I mean, I think that, first of all, as far as oil's fall goes, I mean, until rig count goes down a lot and production goes down a lot, I think it's hard to say there's really a bottom. I know there's an open debate on that. But as far as the future of the electric car, there's a lot of things that have to happen in the electric car business to make it something that's truly an alternative. So in some places, like the place I live in here, it's a very common thing to see these fancy cars. It's also the biggest booming economy around. There are charging stations everywhere. You can drive it in the warm. It doesn't get cold.
But Cory, does Tesla need to become truly the alternative, something everybody else is using? I mean, it's a really high-end car with a high-end customer. Do they have to attract the masses to be a success?
Well, I think it's a fair point. I mean, certainly the company loses money, right? It loses boatloads of money. Their aspiration is to sell cars to the masses, but every attempt they've made to sell a cheaper car has failed. And the average price of a Tesla right now is probably somewhere between $95,000 and $98,000, and the price seems to be going up and not down. One of the strange things that we're starting to see out of Tesla, and I think more attention will be focused on this because this is a weird announcement, right? They pre-announced this on a Friday when the market was closed, and it was a very strange announcement from Tesla. But it's going to start to let us look at some other important things with Tesla, like why are they losing money? Why are they losing so much money? Why are inventories growing so much? And is the backlog for this car truly gone? Does that tell us really that the size of the market is now known and they have reached it because the backlog is gone and their inventory is well over $300 million of finished goods now?
Cory, let me pile in there with one more question for Tesla real quick. This announcement about the home battery, is that a real product or is that another pie-in-the-sky experiment?
We don't know what Tesla is announcing. Elon Musk announced on his Twitter account that there was going to be a new product that was not a car to be announced later in the month, in April. There's a lot of speculation that it's going to be a home battery made from the Giga battery factory that they have yet to build. But I think that with Tesla, the promise is always on the come. It's always the future. It's something that they don't do. It's a cheaper car. It's an SUV. It's a home battery. The results as they stand make Tesla look like a much smaller money-losing company. But the future is immeasurable, so maybe that's where the hope is for Tesla, because the president in the past haven't lived up to much.
All right,
the car's neat, but don't get me wrong. But,
Cory Johnson
you
asking
lose money in every car. Can't make it up in volume.
Okay, thank you for asking the right questions about Tesla. Cory Johnson, that's our editor-at-large from Bloomberg West.